good afternoon, and welcome to Building Apps with Google Apps Script. My name is Saurabh Gupta, and I'm the product manager for Google Apps Script. And today, I'm going to tell you a story. This is a story about an app, a web app that was built using Google Apps Script. The name of the app is Drive Eye, and it lets you keep an eye on your drive, Google Drive. This story has 4 parts to it, meaning we'll go through the whole process of how this web app was assembled and put together using Google Apps Script. And each of these sections we'll cover in detail as to what you should do when building an app like that. And along the way, we have a few surprises for you. But before we begin, what is Drive Eye? Let me explain a little bit about Drive Eye. So as I said, Drive Eye lets you keep an eye on your Google Drive. So for example, if, say, you have a shared folder, and you're sharing it, say, with your friend or colleague or whoever, right? And if there is some activity in that folder, meaning files get added to that folder, then you might want to get some notifications on it. So Drive Eye lets you just do exactly that, which is lets you keep an eye on your drive on a particular folder. So the first thing is when you go to this web app, you can subscribe to notifications from different folders in your drive. So it's a simple way of adding folders that you can have subscription to. Once you have subscription, then if, say, there is some activity in this folder, so for example, in this screenshot here, you see I've subscribed to activity in, say, playoff bets. And if somebody added, say, a friend of mine added a file or a spreadsheet into the folder, then I get an email saying, hey, somebody added a file to this folder, or something like that. So it's a very simple yet powerful app that lets you keep an eye on your drive, and this was built using Google Apps Script. So a little bit of history of Apps Script and our origin. So we started in 2009 as a way of letting you write custom functions in spreadsheets. Simple yet powerful features. Along the way, we said, well, you can write custom functions. Why not some interesting UI and sort of extend your spreadsheet experience? We also gave you a little gallery where you can share code and share your scripts as well. And last year, we doubled down on our investment in UI, gave you UI Builder and a whole host of services that you can use to write and build awesome apps. So what's for this year? Well, what we thought was that what we had built was something really good. But of course, this is Google, so we want to do something even better. And that better is script.google.com. This is one-stop shop for all your Google Apps Script needs. This is the place that you go to now to create, manage, organize, write your scripts. One simple URL, script.google.com. Don't forget it. Again, I'll say script.google.com. So what does script.google.com let you do? And this is the first part of our story, which is it lets you create scripts. Now, what's such a big deal about creating scripts? Well, I'm going to walk you through as to the big deal about creating scripts, but the short answer is you can now create scripts from your Google Drive, or you can create scripts from script.google.com. Right? So again, and did anything change with script.google.com? No. If you like the way AppScript is today, or was till yesterday, you get all those features. You get all your APIs, your services, you get all your events, triggers, and a whole host of functionality. But with script.google.com, you get something even more. So what's such a big deal about this whole create part of the story of Drive Eye? Well, we let you create scripts, but only from sites or spreadsheets, right? So a lot of our users ask us, like, why are you hiding this product? And we used to say, well, you can create container-bound scripts. That was our origin. But with script.google.com, now you no longer have to create a spreadsheet to create a script. Scripts are projects are independent and are in their own right first-class developer products. And script.google.com is your destination. So this is the first feature that we are launching today, which is letting you create standalone scripts. Scripts that can be created from Google Drive or Scriptgooglecom. So let's explore some differences between container-bound scripts and standalone scripts. As we know, container-bound scripts can be created from spreadsheet in the Tools menu, and you can go to the script editor, and you can create as many scripts as you like, and they are bound to a spreadsheet, and those are container-bound scripts. But as you can see in this screenshot here, you can now create scripts from Drive itself, Google Drive. Go to a Create menu, and more you will see script, and now once you create a script, it will show up in your Drive as well. Well, if you go to Scriptgooglecom, then you see a welcome screen, and you are well on your way to creating standalone scripts. These scripts will also show up in your Drive. Another difference, container-bound scripts always followed the life cycle of the parent or the container. So for example, if you had a script that was part of a spreadsheet, it lived and died with the spreadsheet. Standalone scripts, on the other hand, live on their own, right? So they have their own life cycle. That's an easy difference. How do you find container-bound scripts, right? So you have to locate the parent, which is first you have to go to a spreadsheet, then find all the attached scripts. But standalone scripts just show up in your Drive, just like that. Like you can go to your Drive web UI and go through all your script projects. Well, if you like search, you can actually search your code in Google Drive, and script projects will show up. So how many of you have this my function script in your, that you played around with? And you can just type my function in there, and you will see all of these scripts that have my function in it, right? So not only can you create scripts from Drive or Scriptgooglecom, but you can find them there. You can search for code. So all your needs around creating and finding scripts sort of taken care of. So going back to our application, which is DriveEye, how does this whole create story fit in? Well, in order to design this application, DriveEye, we thought, well, we will need to create 3 standalone projects. The first project is the main DriveEye project, which has all the nice UI and everything. The second would be a folder subscription API, meaning if I want to subscribe a folder, I want to remove a subscription, things like that, then I should be able to create a project that can do those types of things. And then eventually there is a data model that needs to be stored in some database. Well, this is pretty complex stuff here, right? But the bottom line is we need to create 3 standalone projects. Well, but then before we start creating the standalone projects, what is the best way to build UI and store data? And again, let's go back to our history a little bit. So we let you create scripts from spreadsheets, and we had UI app. Awesome way to build UI and a great way to store data. That was pretty good, right? But this is Google. We want to do something even better. So today we are announcing Scriptdb, which is your one-stop shop for all your data storing needs for scripts, and HTML service. So now you can use HTML, JavaScript, and CSS and create web applications. So if you don't like the way to create applications using Google Web Toolkit style, then you can use HTML service. And this session is not really about Scriptdb or HTML service, but we have 2 awesome sessions tomorrow. One covering Scriptdb, and this is at 5:15, room number 7, Drew's session, so you should definitely attend that. You will learn lots of new stuff. It's fully packed with functionality. Every script gets a data store. It's a JSON data store. You can store your JavaScript objects, search across them, do a whole host of things, and we thought you needed a whole session to understand full capabilities of it. So do remember, 5:15 p.m., room number 7. And HTML service, again, very powerful stuff. It's not just ability to do HTML, JavaScript, CSS, but there's a lot of other functionality like templates and things like that. So definitely attend this session as well, 2:45, room 11. But let's get back to our session about building this app, right? So as we had noted, that we need 3 standalone projects. So we go about creating 3 standalone projects, and you can see it here. We have these 3 standalone projects created in our drive, right? And this is the data model that we want to use. So these are the JavaScript objects that eventually will be stored in Scriptdb. But the first class is the user class, which when a user subscribes to a folder, a trigger gets created for the user, and we keep a track of what folders you want to subscribe on and the files and things like that. All of this gets stored in Scriptdb. And for the folder subscription API, we implement all of these functions where you can add subscription, remove, and things like that. Pretty simple stuff, right? So now we have ability to create scripts, standalone scripts from Scriptgooglecom, and we have created 3 standalone projects. But how do we glue these 3 projects together, right? What should we do? And that brings us to the second part of the story, which is we want to make it easy for you to share your scripts so that you can collaborate and organize your code. So let's go back to our history again. So we had some sort of sharing in scripts, like you can create a script in a spreadsheet and you can share it in a way you can allow editors to collaborate on your script and things like that. Again, that was pretty good, but we want to do better. And that better is just a plain, simple way of sharing scripts, right? And what could be easier than sharing scripts, but sharing in a Google Docs way? And if you're familiar with this dialogue, then you would know that this is how you share your documents, this is how you share your spreadsheets, this is how you share your presentations. So why not share your scripts using the same well-known ability to share, right? So let's explore a little bit about how sharing works. So as we know, we have 2 types of scripts: standalone scripts, container-bound scripts. So what we have done is we have made sharing easy such that container-bound scripts inherit all the permissions from the parent. So if you create a spreadsheet and then you create a script, that script would get all the permissions from the spreadsheet. Very simple. There is no complex way of like, okay, I want to prevent editors and things like that. Simple way to understand inheritance of permission. For standalone scripts, you can use this dialog and add viewers and editors. So it's very simple, well-known, well-used way of sharing, right? But we have another concept in scripts, which is you need to give execute permission. So what we have done is we have made all viewers executors as well. So if you can give view permission to a script, then you are giving execute permissions as well. And there's no, and comparing this analogy to libraries or jars or whatever, right? If I can get a jar, then I can pretty much execute whatever code I have in that jar, right? So, okay, that's great. I can share my scripts. That's fine. I can invite more viewers, editors. People can look at my code. That's fine. But how does it help me really organize my code? And so he said, well, we launched libraries last month. And libraries is that higher order of sharing, which is once you share your script, then somehow, what if there existed some magic where you could convert your script project into a library? And that's that higher order of sharing, right? So how do you create a library? 3 simple steps to create a library. You save a version of your script. Then you share the script with view permissions. So once you have invited viewers to your script project, then you're almost halfway there. Now users can, your collaborators can view your code, but then when you share your project key, then they can really start using your script project as a library. So going back to our DriveEye project, what we need to do is we need to convert 2 projects out of these 3 to libraries and then use them. So what we are going to do is we're going to take the data model project, create a library out of it, and then use that as a library in the second project, which is the folder subscription library, right? And then make folder subscription library as project as a library and then use it in the main project. It's pretty complex stuff, but it goes to show the power of sharing combined with libraries, that the kinds of things that you can do here. So how do you use a library? Well, 4 simple steps. Once you have got that project key from the owner or the author of the library, you insert that project key in the Manage Libraries dialog that you can see in the script editor. And once you do that, you can, then you can select a version. So now remember, you saved a version, so you can have multiple versions at the same time of your library, and whoever wants to use your library can choose the version. Once you choose a version, then you are asked for an identifier. Now, this identifier is sort of the namespace that you will give to that library in your code. Here, for our Drive I application, we are using the name folder alert lib, and I am going to show you how this is used in the code. So, and that's the last step, really, which is once I open up my script editor, I include the library, and as soon as I type my identifier or the namespace, and here in this case, it's folder alert lib dot, you can see the autocomplete shows up with all the available functions that this library provides for that version. So 4 simple ways to create libraries. And again, this example shows you how a data model library was used in the second project. Here you can see data model.dryFolder, and dryFolder was one of the main classes that we wanted to store, right? So it's very simple and easy to create libraries and use them. And it helps you organize your code, because now you can refactor your code in a way that it's such that it becomes reusable chunks, and then you can publish versions and create libraries, and then continue working on your code. So you can collaborate effectively, you can organize your code. It's really a higher form of sharing. And again, as I said, we use folder alert lib, and we are using this library in the main project, the Drive I project, that has the UI as well. So we talked about creating scripts from Drive or script.google.com. We talked about sharing scripts. We talked about creating libraries. We talked about creating 3 standalone projects, converting them into libraries, gluing them together. So we have all the elements now. What's next? So assuming all the code is done, we have glued together everything, then we need to be able to deploy our script as a web app. Now, and that's the third part of our story, which is we want to make it easy for you to create script projects, share them, organize your code, and then able to deploy them as web apps. Now, deploying scripts as web apps is not something that is new to AppScript. Well, we have had this for a while. And let me explain to you a little bit about how web apps used to work, or work today in AppScript. So imagine if I have a developer, and his name is Bob, and he writes an awesome web app, right? And this web app, say this is an event management web app where he wrote a web app, and all users need to see the event calendar or list of events, something like that, right? So it uses Bob's data, Bob's spreadsheet, all the event information, everything is in there, right? And then he writes the script and then converts that into a web app. And the user comes along, let's call him Sam, and Sam uses the web app. So in AppScript lingo, Sam becomes the active user, meaning the user on the keyboard. And when Sam accesses the web app, the script runs, and script runs as Bob because the script is supposed to access Bob's data, and Bob in AppScript terms is the effective user. And this worked pretty well, but there were some limitations to it, right? It was pretty good, it was well received, but obviously we wanted to do something even better. And that better is a new way of deploying web apps. So let's go back to our diagram a little bit and try to understand what is this new way of deploying web apps. So imagine if we had this app, but now Now, instead of the script running as developer Bob, what if it runs as Sam and accesses Sam's data? Of course, with his permission, authorization, and all security, everything taken care of. But if the script could run as Sam, the user, then all of a sudden we have a whole host of new use cases that open up with web apps written using script, right? And in this case, the active user, which is Sam, is also the effective user. An effective user is a server-side concept in AppScript where it's the identity under which a script runs on the server, right? So this is the new way of deploying web apps. So what are some of the advantages of this new type of web apps? Well, the first advantage, as I just demonstrated, was that now the scripts are more powerful because the web apps are more powerful because they can access to users' resources. For example, users' calendar, and user here being the user on the keyboard, users' calendar, spreadsheets, and all that. And for DriveEye, this is really important. For our and the reason why this is important is because when I, as a user of DriveEye, access DriveEye, I want DriveEye to show my folders. I want to place subscription on folders that belong to me, not to the developer. So this is really important, right? And the second reason why this is useful is because now you can get the identity of the active user, the user on the keyboard. With the earlier type of web apps, you could not get the identity of the active user. And the third and really interesting thing here is that the script, when it runs as the new type of web app, it uses end user's coda. So if you, as a developer, if you create a really useful app, then it's not limited to just your coda, or the use of the app is just not limited to your coda. It is limited to the end user, the user on the keyboard. So all these three factors make it really compelling that this type of new way of deploying web app is becomes pretty compelling. Again, just to clarify, the type of web app that we had was the first type, which was the active user is the end user and developer is the effective user. The new way of deploying web apps is active user and effective user are the same, which is the user on the keyboard. So how do you deploy these types of web apps? Well, as this dialog really shows, you can select the type of web app here and select whether you want the web app to run as you as the developer or as the user accessing the web app. And this simple selection is the choice of deployment that you have. Not only that, as you are familiar with, you can control access, like who can access this web app, right? And we added something even better, which was making it easy for you to productionize your application, which is you can now save your web apps as versions and then select a version. So why is that really useful? Well, the reason why this is really useful is that you want one single immutable URL for your web apps. You don't want to change the URL under your users. However, you still want the flexibility to test your app, right? You want to continue development of your web app. So what you can do is you can save your web apps as versions and then assign the version number to the URL. And whenever the user is accessing your web app, then the assigned version script will be executed. And you can continue developing without impacting the user at all. So it makes it very easy to productionize your application, web application, and makes it very easy for you to continue developing, testing, and all the good stuff. So deploying web apps is easy. It's the same do-get. But here you see something, a little teaser here, which is HTML service. And I'm not going to delve more details because you should attend tomorrow's session at 2:45. But the whole idea is now you can do a lot more with HTML service and HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and create very interesting web apps. One of the other interesting parts of Drive-i application is that because it's going to send you alerts on activity on a particular folder, it needs to create a trigger on behalf of the user. So the flow here is that when the user of Drive-i first subscribes to a folder, the web app creates trigger on behalf of the user. And this is easy now because we have that other way of deploying web apps, right? So as you can see, we used the recently launched Scriptdb service to create a trigger which runs for every 5 minutes, polls a user's drive, and compares and sees if there are new files or not. And this is only possible because now you can deploy new types of web apps. So how do users find your web apps? Well, one way is you can create a URL and distribute your URL. But how many users can you reach with your URL? And this brings us to the last part of our story here, which is we want to make it easy for you to publish your web apps in a way that it is discoverable. So publishing is not new to AppScript, right? We had this script gallery, but it was more of a way of sharing code amongst developers. It was not really a mechanism where apps could be discovered, installed, uninstalled, right? So that was good. It really serves its purpose, but we want to do, again, something really, really good. And so we are launching integration with Chrome Web Store. Now, you can publish your web apps in Chrome Web Store. So you'll ask, what is the big deal about publishing in Chrome Web Store? Well, you have the URL, you can publish it yourself, right? But what we have done is we have made it really simple to publish in Chrome Web Store. It takes one-click uploads to Chrome Web Store, so we take care of the packaging and all the initial upload part of the Chrome Web Store, right? And also, we let you easily verify your web apps because your web apps will be running on script.google.com. So it's really important that you verify ownership of your web apps. So these are the two reasons I think why it's pretty interesting that we have Chrome Web Store integration for you guys. So it's, again, 4 simple steps in making your web apps available in Chrome Web Store. First is verify your ownership using Google Webmaster Central, and it's a really 2-step process guided from the script editor on Scriptgooglecom. So it's very straightforward and simple. Then what you do is you click on Publish and Register with Chrome Web Store, and you get this dialog here, and you can just click on Register Web App, and we have taken care of all the packaging requirements for Chrome Web Store. And then you can go to Chrome Web Store and customize your listing, meaning you can provide icons, screenshots, YouTube videos, tiles, whatever it takes to make your app look so pretty that everybody wants to install it, right? And once you customize your listing, you just publish and go live. And that's it. Your web apps are now available in Chrome Web Store. So this really completes our story. We want to make it easy for you to create scripts from Drive or Scriptgooglecom, or we want to make it easy for you to share scripts, organize your code, use library, reuse code. We want to make it easy for you to deploy your scripts as web apps, and eventually allow you to publish scripts in Chrome Web Store so that millions of users can benefit from your web app. So time for a quick demo. So this is a demo of Drive-i and how it works. So let's get started. So I go to Chrome Web Store, and you will see a listing like this. And I obviously did not customize my listing really well because there should be like good screenshots. But this is how your listing should look like. So once you go to Chrome Web Store, you say Add to Chrome. Then you will get a dialog, and then it will show up in your Chrome New tab, next to my little angry birds there, right? And once it shows up on my Chrome New tab, then I get an email that I have installed this app, right? And what this email says is, it gives you like instruction about what drive I is and what authorizations have I granted and things like that. It's pretty simple. It's just a reminder, right? So once you install the app and it shows up in Chrome new tab, then let's access this app and have a little fun with it. Like let's add a few folders that I want to be alerted on. Of course, playoff bets is really important. Tax returns for some reason, and images, and I am an avid racquetball player, so some racquetball league stuff, right? So now what I've done is I have subscribed to a few folders that exist in my drive, right? Now, but all of these are really good. I'm interested in racquetball, yeah, images, yeah, returns, of course. But what I'm really interested in is cocktails. And I know a friend of mine, I mean, he really is into cocktails, right? And I don't want to miss out on any new stuff that he does, right? So what I say is, hey, I tell my friend, Sam, like, why don't you, he keeps a folder of cocktail recipes, and I ask him, like, you should share this folder with me. So I'm like, okay. So he does, and he shares this folder with me. And as you can see, he uses the same sharing. I mean, it's folder sharing, normal Google Drive, and he shares it with me. Once he shares this folder with me, I'll get an email, which is standard Google Drive email saying, you know, a folder is shared with me. And you can see Sam shared this folder with cocktail recipes. And it has some cocktails in there already, right? So I go back to my Drive I and add cocktail recipes as the folder that I want to be alerted on, so that I will no longer now miss out on the adventures of my friend Sam, right? And I know, well, he keeps coming up with new cocktail recipes, so one day something will happen, and that did happen. So Sam here created 2 new cocktails, right? Well, born in the Taj Mahal, right? It was like, okay, Taj Mahal is in my hometown, so why not? Like, I really want this. And then thirsty in Monte Carlo, well, gambling and cocktails, that's an awesome combination, so I want that, right? So he selects these 2 and then drags them into this folder. And then, so once he does that, then eventually, in 5 minutes, I get an email saying, hey, there are 2 files that are added here in this folder, and now I get notified on that folder. So it helps me keep an eye on my drive, on my folders, and it helps me keep an eye on what my friends are doing so that I don't miss out on good stuff, right? So going back, so if I want you to remember 2 things out of this entire session, it says this slide and then the next one. So this slide is pretty simple. 6 new main features in AppScript: ability to create standalone scripts, Scriptdb. You should definitely attend the session tomorrow. HTML service, again, you should definitely attend that session. Sharing scripts in a simple way, deploying new types of web apps, integration with Chrome Web Store. And the one last thing that you need to remember is script.google.com. And I'm opening it up for questions, please.
Hi, how do you handle authorization and authentication? Do we need to enable the APIs we're accessing in the dashboard or something, like we usually do? For example, if I want to get access to contacts, Drive, we need to enable those APIs in the developer dashboard.
So if I understand your question, you're asking how do you turn on authorization and authentication on some of the APIs? Awesome question. So this is Google AppScript. There are apps in the name is there for a reason. And that reason is that we take care of security for all of their apps products. So if you are writing a script and you're going to the script editor, you are already logged in, right? And then when the script runs, it runs under somebody's account, like security context. So it either runs as you or runs as the active user, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of that security OAuth stuff is taken care of already. So you don't have to deal with it when using default services of AppScript, right? All you have to do is just authorize that, yeah, you want script to access some of these resources on your behalf. But as a developer, you don't have to worry about OAuth at all.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. First, congratulations. This new feature seems amazing.
Thank you.
With these standalone scripts, will we be able to manage the script via Google Drive SDK? Change the script code?
So let me understand your question. So what you're saying is you want to manage these scripts using Drive SDK. Now, I think what you're talking about is the Drive API, the docs list API, right? So the answer is eventually, yes.
All right.
Thanks for that talk. That was really exciting and great talk. Thank you. Question on the effective user being the person using the script. Are there any fallback provisions for if they don't have a Google account or don't log in where you could fall back to your resources running it? Or is it just one or the other? They have to have a Google account, or if they don't, I mean, could you deploy an app that uses their account if they've got one, but if they don't, you fall back to something yourself?
So again, rephrasing your question, what you want is you want to have the script access the account of the user who's using the app, web app, right?
Right.
So this is the new thing that we launched today.
Yeah, but if that person doesn't have a Google account, they can't access your.
So yeah, the person needs to have a Google account. Yeah, okay. You need to have a Google account to create scripts and use scripts in a meaningful way.
Okay.
Yes, if the class that you're after isn't available within Google Apps Script, and you have to go after, for example, the Resources API, and now I have to expose within my script a client key and secret. Is there a way to? You mentioned view gives you execute. Can I have execute with no view?
So when you deploy as web app, and it's the new type of web app that we talked about, then you do not share your code, right? So you can protect, if the question is how do you protect your secret and key, right? Then you can totally do that. But if you use that code as a reusable library, then you have to share the library, and in that case it is not protected.
Well, in order for the code to run against the Resource API, you have to authenticate outside of Google Apps. So you have to actually make a call like a URL fetch.
Right.
So how would you protect that code?
So there are some challenges in there, and I can tell you that we are putting a lot of effort in improving the whole URL fetch thing. Yeah. So.
To include users of your own domain? Okay, would that include users of your own domain? Yes. Okay.
Howdy, congrats. We get a lot of utility out of the UI elements that are in the spreadsheet environment, so the additional drop-down menus and whatnot. Can what you're describing around deploying as a web app produce UIs in the spreadsheet environment, or are they purely standalone UIs?
So the new UI is also in the spreadsheet environment, yeah.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, if I'm a user and I want to add functionality to a spreadsheet and have additional menus in my spreadsheet, I would go to the web app, choose the spreadsheet I want to install it on, and then from there on out it would function identically to a container-bound script.
The distribution of scripts into a spreadsheet remains the same way through the gallery for now, right? It's the Chrome Web Store integration piece that we have added is for web apps. But if you want to use, say, HTML service in your spreadsheet, then you're going to write the script in the same way you wrote the script, but use HTML service, and then distribute either through gallery or through copy-paste mechanism and get those scripts into your spreadsheet. Is that what your question?
We'll talk more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Congratulations to you and your team. My question is, if you actually share a script with a bunch of people with an apps account, is that script also, you know how in sites you can also insert scripts, is that same sharing? So if you've shared with the apps account user, basically they can add it to their sites as well?
So script that can be added in a sites page are container-bound scripts. They have to be created from a Google site. Now, what you can do is, though, say if you have some reusable code, then, and you want to use it in different scripts in a sites page, right? Then you can create a standalone project in your drive, and then create a library, and then use that library in a script that belongs to a site. So what you do is you basically refactor your code and take out the reusable parts of it and have that code live as standalone project, and then use it everywhere as a library.
Okay, got it. And is the code available for this demo? We
Yes,
really just wanted to build something like that, so I kind of want to take this.
So we will definitely link to the store item and as well as the code, and when the announcement goes out.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming, and we are here to help on our office hours and everything. Thank you.